It's just compose yourself.
The pimps in the crib, ma. Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. When the pigs try to get at you, park it like it's hot. Park it like it's hot.
Hello, and welcome to the Smithy Show and Hot Topic. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, you can get in touch with us to suggest a topic on Twitter using the handle @TheSmithyShow. You can also find us on Facebook, YouTube, and now Vordle. That's the Twitter for your ears. So links will be in the show notes, and we always post our updates for show releases on Twitter. So give us a follow and keep your eyes peeled. Thank you to everyone who listens and supports, and thank you if you've shared the pod with a friend. Now, onto the show, and onto this big bad batch of bed-wetting bull shovelers. It's Curtis Gallagher.
All right, everyone.
And Fraser Goodlad.
Hello, everybody.
How are we doing, boys?
Very well.
Very
Good
well.
to- Yep, very well.
Has anyone learned anything interesting this week? I thought I'd throw that in there.
Anything interesting? I learned that between 15 and 60% of the UK's laws are influenced by the European Union, but people don't actually know whether it is 15% or 60%. It could be anywhere in between. So people don't really know how much more.
So we know it's not 61%.
We know it's not 61, it's not 14,
It's not 14.
but there's a lot of our laws are influenced by the European Union. I was reading about that last night, just quite interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, I was reading about some new scientific studies that they've created some sort of bandages that can actually regenerate parts of your tissue through nanotechnology.
Seriously?
But yeah, it's like a really sort of novel technique, so they're still working on it, but that's pretty cool.
Wow, okay. And I have actually started a programming course through MIT this week as well, so I'm trying to learn
What do you mean programming?
Like
computer science and
what's it called?
Python.
Python, that's
yeah,
what I was thinking.
Yeah, coding. So that's something I'm trying to pick up and start learning this week, just as a hobby.
MIT?
As a hobby. Yeah, MIT offer free online courses now, stuff like that. So
Macclesfield Institute of Technology.
yeah. But moving on, Fraser, you're the physio. So what's our warm up today?
I've got a Did You Know of the Day.
Okay, let's have it.
Right, lads, just a short one. Did you know that baseballs were originally made using horses' foreskins?
No way.
Yep, so that's Did You Know of the Day. On with the podcast.
There's so many questions there as well. Okay.
Right. Did I mean to make one? Like, what do you do for a living? Oh, I make baseballs.
Yeah, I mean, who looked at the horse and goes, yeah, let's make a sport in that.
That's perfect size.
Wow. Okay. Today, we're going to be talking about big decisions. Moments in our lives that change the course of our personal history. We each have our own tale to tell, our own story, but for many of us that go through the motions each day, it might seem like we barely even write a sentence for ourselves as we travel from page to page with no direction of our own, living out a story that someone else wrote for us, assigning our futures to the invisible hand of fate. But sometimes, however, we create our own story. Sometimes we have the opportunity to set in motion a series of events that fundamentally change our lives forever. As you picture the path of your life unfolding in front of you, decisions like this are a fork in the road, deciding whether or not to pursue the path to the left or the road to the right. We have absolutely no idea how it will turn out. A leap of faith, perhaps, or a strategic plan of action. What leads us to that inflection point, and how do we make these big decisions so that we may grab the pen and become the author of our own lives? Curt, how do you make your big decisions? Do you have some big decisions in your life?
I make my big decisions. I'm not one to be quite hasty with my decisions, especially when they're sort of large in magnitude.
Right.
Personally, I weigh up the options. I weigh up what would be the pros and cons of each decision. If I know sort of what the decision could lead to, and then I make my decision based on pros outweighing cons in each decision. Yeah.
So what about unknown consequences, or sort of a lot of the times whenever you make a decision, there's a lot of unknown.
Mm-hmm. I think that's something you've got to take into a factor. How much of the unknowns are there? You know, sometimes you kind of know what's going to happen with one decision.
Your degree of certainty.
Yeah. And then with the other, you might not know what's going to happen, but you think, well, this could lead to something big. So you've got to kind of use your intuition. And if you got some minerals, you go with the unknown. Or if you're quite, I want
if you got some minerals.
Yeah, but like, no, if you want to be certain about something, then you go to the one that you know the most about.
And have you preferred towards the unknown or the known so far in your life?
I would say there's a bit of a mixture, to be honest.
All right, how so?
Moving to America was what I've got down as my first big decision. So at the age of 18, kind of don't really know what I was gonna do in respect to how America would pan out, because I applied to a lot of English universities, like your Russell Group, so your Edinburgh, Manchester, Sheffield. I applied to all them and got conditional offers.
Wow.
Not
I was gonna say.
conditional offers from all of them for biochemistry. And then I obviously found out about America, went through that process, and then got offers from schools in America. And
How
then
did you find out about America? What sparked that?
a player on one of my teams, he was at a sports college, and the company came to his, it was through a company.
Okay.
The company came to his college. He then told me about it because I played football with him at the weekends, and he said, you should try this. I signed up to them. They said, your grades are really good, come for a trial day. Went for a trial day. They said, you're definitely good enough to do it. And then I went to the showcase where they bring American coaches over and you play in front of them, and I got quite a lot of good feedback from that. I got a lot of emails and correspondence, but I went a year early, so I was only 16 at that time.
Okay.
So then I could go the following year as well, play in front of the coaches again, and then make a decision. So that was being prepared for me, I guess, was a big help.
Do you think giving yourself time to make a decision is important?
Yes, I would rather delay something an extra week and maybe lose out on a week's worth of work, or for instance, and make sure that I've made the right decision rather than hastily jump into something 2 feet first or head first.
That is one of my key points as well.
What?
I am much more comfortable when I know it's the right decision. If I know
Yeah,
it's the
you
right
know
decision.
in your mind.
I know
You
when
convince yourself.
I feel like I've done my due diligence. If I know it's the right decision, even if I've taken too long to make it and the opportunity's gone, that for me gives me so much peace of mind, and it just gives me more fulfillment. I think when I do make the decision, when I know it's right, then I can feel more comfortable about it.
And what goes into your decision, and what's the research process then?
The research.
How did you know that you were gathering the right information, or what information did you even look for to base your decision off?
Is this the same?
Yeah.
Like the same situation. So
Yeah.
me moving here.
Yeah, so I mean,
Onto
take us a
America.
little bit further from the showcase.
So from the showcase, I had little to no recollection or knowledge of any universities really in America, to be honest, apart from your Harvard and
Right.
you know the big ones that like a lot of people know as common knowledge. So then I applied to all my UCAS, my English universities, and then I got a lot of email correspondence. Marshall, which is the one I went to, I got emailed by Duke, Cincinnati, a lot of Division 2 schools, and then some D3 schools. So my research was me looking up them, looking firstly at the program for biochemistry, because that was my like number one intent. I wanted to get a degree in biochemistry. It was just a matter of where I got it, like the logistics of it. And then I would then look at the program, look at the manager, see how he was talking to me through email, if he was going to be like good for me progressing my soccer career. And then I obviously made a decision based on that, and I thought to myself that if I wouldn't have taken America, I would regret it in later life, because everyone I know has been to England and done a degree, which fair play to them, that's really good, but I think it sets me apart from me moving, like displacing myself at 18 years old, going living independently somewhere else. I thought this is an opportunity that you're never going to get again, don't pass it up.
Massively. Yeah,
And like, what about yourself? Were you the same sort of situation? Because we've all done the same decision here to
Yeah.
be in the same room right now.
Yeah.
For my decision, I was a lot more geared to coming to the US because of where I was at in high school education, because if I had gone to uni in the UK, I would have only been able to do a degree that would put me on the path to become a PE teacher.
Right.
So in the US, you can essentially study whatever you want. There's no pre-requirements at university, whereas it is a lot more focused in the UK. So if I wanted to continue playing football at a level that I wanted to take my football to another level or a different area, and then also pursue a degree because I was academic.
Mhm.
If I had just been all about football, I probably wouldn't have come to the US, because you probably would have just tried and applied your trade back home and see as far as you can get
In the leagues.
academies and different things like that, and in the leagues, and get paid to play. But so one of the most important things for me was actually getting the education, because I thought there's no point in me squandering academic talents from high school and then not having anything to fall back on. Because realistically, this is part of the decisions, like your pros and cons and your research is, what are the chances of me becoming a professional footballer and having a future in football unless you become a coach or a teacher? And even then, there's not a lot of money in that. So you kind of hedge your bets in a sense by coming here and getting a full degree as well, which is the best decision I've ever made by far and away. I think if you look at where the two paths would have led up to this point, as a 22-year-old, if I hadn't come to the US, God knows where I'd be, but it wouldn't be on as good of a platform as I am now.
Yeah.
So I think, whereas the decision was a little bit easier for me that I knew I wanted to come to the US, then making the decision of where to actually attend was also a difficult decision, but one that was made easier actually with, like you say, you speak to the coaches and you have a look at the academic program, and it is so difficult for English guys in our situation making that decision, because you don't know the difference between the big universities, the small universities, the different programs, and the rankings and the different people that rank them. You essentially make it judged off like the website. I use Google Maps to have a look at the town and see what's around.
Yeah, Street View.
Yeah, literally just having a look around.
Oh, let's go walk around Greensburg. Yeah.
Honestly, and then you just kind of maybe speak to some existing players or anything like that, and just really.
I spoke to your mum and dad before I came, Smithy.
I think I remember. Yeah,
I remember that? Yeah.
I know Jack spoke to me. Jack Wardell, who's a listener. He spoke to me and did a good job in convincing me to come as well, to be quite honest.
He does have the gift of the gab.
He does.
Yeah.
And I think speaking to someone who's doing it and being
experienced
is massive.
And another person who's British and has made that move away. I
Yeah.
think it wouldn't have been the same value talking to an American in America.
A common
Speaking to somebody
Right.
who left a similar environment to go to America and really enjoyed it, that gives you the confidence to make that decision.
That definitely helped me moving here, because when I was in West Virginia, I was the only English guy there in a team full. In fact, our freshman class of 12 had 10 Americans, one guy from Chile, and then me from England. So like it was quite hard to assimilate into an American-dominated team rather than coming here, and it's just like being in a team back home.
And what does that say for our cultural experiences? All we do is just go here and hang around with people exactly the same as us.
It is nice though. It's like a home away from home almost. We've got our, 7, 8 of us, 9 of us, and we have our little culture, but it's so easy to branch out into American culture, and you're surrounded by American culture, obviously, but having that little nucleus of people that you know really well, and it's almost homely.
Yeah.
I think that's helped. That definitely helped me.
Yeah, I like that.
I completely agree, and that's part of the reason why I say I wouldn't change anything for the world, because the friends I made here, and the network connections, it's lifelong friends. Not that you wouldn't make them if you went back home, but if you go to uni back home, you're not going to have people that you can call on in 10 years' time and go travel America.
I need to go to Canada. I need to go to
exactly.
Florida. Oh, I know 2 people there.
Exactly.
What?
And it's something that I'm extremely grateful for and wouldn't pass up for the world. But Fraser, you can tell us about a big decision that you've made.
My first one is similar. It was coming to America, and I would echo everything you said about the best decision I've ever made. All of the opportunities and the friendships and the different people that you meet is incredible. Being on our team, we have kids from Sweden, kids from Australia, kids from Cyprus, kids from England, kids from Scotland, kids from America, and to have that global perspective in an education is unbelievable.
Yeah, and you got hammered by our Swedish listeners the other day about saying you'd be on the handball team.
Oh yeah, I got hammered by one of the Swedes saying, first of all, you wouldn't get in the handball team. Second of all, Great Britain never qualify anyway unless they host it. So excellent, Swedes with the handball knowledge. But I was just on decisions. I think a lot of decision making is looking at your alternatives, so the different choices that you can make. And I find even if I wanted to, for example, if I was going to buy a pair of headphones, what I did, this random, but it happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I look up the different options that I have, and if it's buying something off Amazon, I want to look at every different option I've got. I'll go to another source and I'll see what the reviews are. I'll go to another source, see the reviews. But I know it's a small thing buying a pair of headphones, but I wouldn't want to buy a pair of headphones and spend, $50 on a pair of headphones when I knew I could have got something better for the same price. Or doing an hour or two of research just for the $50 is, to me, is worth it. And I can scale that up to any decision I make. I would need to do my research before I make any decision.
So what's the qualifying limit? When do you allow yourself to make an impulse decision?
Did you research that sandwich you got in front of you? Salami or ham?
Well, they're out of beef.
Did
My
you check
alternatives are
the
limited.
nutritional value of all the alternatives?
Check the rating.
I know what you're saying.
No, I'm genuinely interested. What's the threshold for the amount of, and how much research in proportion to the size of the decision? What does that come in? I mean, if it obviously changes your entire future, such as picking a school.
It's 100%. It's directly.
That could change your life a lot.
Boom sauce. Life changing. No, I'd say the more important, the more impactful the decision's going to be, the more research, just obviously. But I don't know specifically. I guess it's a way you feel. So when I graduate, I'm going to stay in America and go to law school. And over my Christmas break, I probably spent 5-6 hours a day just online looking at my alternatives, different law schools, different programs, ranking systems, locations. Because it's such a big decision,
Go ahead.
I spent hours and hours and hours researching it. Not because I felt like I had to, it's because I wanted to, so I knew I was making the right decision.
Yeah.
And what were your criteria, and how did you decide on your criteria for how to narrow it down?
So in terms of what type of things I would research, is that what you mean? Or?
So you're saying you
what
wanted
did one school have over the other that you thought that's where I want to be instead of that?
So did you base it on, I want sort of like what's best for me and I'm going to try and align a school with that, or did you think I want something that's going to provide me a good network, is in a good location and has good weather, different things like that? How did you basically assign your own criteria? Was it purely on where it will get you in the future, or was it like money? How did you get with that?
Every single thing you've mentioned, I have researched. So,
okay. And did you write it down?
I've written it down. I have Excel documents with different titles of how much it's going to cost me. First of all, because if I can't afford to do it, then why am I researching it?
Yeah.
First thing I did, look up.
So was that the first qualifier?
First of all, you have to be able to do it. Otherwise, I'm wasting my time. So, first of all, we all came here to America. We all get sports scholarship, academic scholarship to afford it. Otherwise, it would be thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So, if we couldn't afford it, there's no point doing it. So, first of all, it has to be money. I start researching, how can I afford to pay for this? Academic scholarship is the best way to pay for it. And as an international student, you can't get government loans from America. Yeah. So you want to go through scholarship, that system. And what I did is I looked online and I saw I had to look up how much scholarship was available. And there are some great resources where people anonymously post where they've applied to, the school's ranking, based off US News and World Report and things like that. There are different ranking systems, but that's the general one people go off. So the ranking of the school, how much money they were offered to attend, and what their GPA and test scores were. So what I did is I compiled all that information and I basically placed myself on that graph of people to see how much money I'd get from each place. And it's very formulaic. They know pretty much what they're going to offer you based off your stats. Your soft factors are they're very secondary. So I knew where I was going to be based off all of those statistics from thousands of other people. And you can search based off somebody with the same GPA as you, somebody who's attended a similar type of university, somebody who's an international student, and you basically get an idea of where you lie on that spectrum of applicants. And I found out I was pretty decent, and I could get decent money, even when people tell you can't do it. If you do the research, you know for yourself whether you can do it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a lot of detail you went into, but obviously with such an important decision,
that's what you have to do.
More than worth it.
That's what you have to do. Like we said, when I got this sandwich earlier before the podcast, I didn't look at nutritional values and things like that because it wasn't life changing. But the more the more life changing, the more research you got to do. It's just as simple as that.
The more it will pay off in the future as well.
And Curt, you are going to be going to a master's program
Yes.
soon in the near future. How did you decide where to aim?
So, I was looking for jobs in America as well as looking for master's programs back home in England. So they were two of my criteria. I actually didn't have much luck in America. Don't really know what that is. I feel as though some of the jobs that I was applying for, I kind of went for a variety of jobs where ones I thought I'm qualified for, definitely. Ones that I thought, well, if I got to the interview stage and it went well, I could potentially get. And then ones I overshot for because, do you know what, you might as well sometimes in the off chance that it does happen. That didn't really go well. And then I thought, well, like, especially being in science, you need, the more qualifications you have, like the much better it is and the much higher you can start on the ladder of jobs. So I did want to do a master's, and I eventually want to go on to do my PhD. So I started looking at master's programs, and I started looking back home actually because you need to take the GRE tests here, which is like graduate tests, and I felt as though I was probably a bit too late, and with the sort of hectic schedule that I have this semester, I don't think that I've been able to excel as well as I could have done on the test scores. So I looked back home, you don't need these sort of tests, so I started applying. I wanted to do something within something relevant to pharmaceuticals or biochemistry were my two main criteria. So I found a lot of like drug relevant programs, and then obviously there was just regular biochemistry ones. As far as location in England, the weather's not really going to change anywhere you go, so that didn't really play a factor into it.
Does cost play a factor in the UK?
Yeah. What about money?
So the masters, like you think about it over here, it fluctuates quite a lot depending on what university, which I'm sure you found out, Fraser.
Yeah.
Depending on the university. Whereas back home, it's a lot more regulated. The majority of masters were about £10,000 to £12,000, which in dollars is around $14,000 to $15,000. Would you say?
Bit more, probably about 80.
Maybe a bit more.
Yeah.
We'll ask Bradley.
Yeah. So there, I thought for especially English masters, so I forgot to mention, are only 1 year compared to 2 in America.
Yeah.
So me getting a master's in a year is much more beneficial if I'm going to continue to do my PhD because it's an accelerated program sort of thing.
What's that? It's $14,000 to $16,000.
Ah.
And you say it's only 1 year.
1 year.
So the cost difference is considerable between the US and the UK in terms of getting a master's.
Exactly.
What about the quality of the education? Does that come into it?
The quality of education, I actually went on university rankings similar to Fraser, looked at the Telegraph, who were an English one, but they had world rankings out. The Guardian also had one. Newspapers, credible sources really. So then I weighed them up. A lot, which I have to say credit to American universities, probably the top 30, I reckon there's at least 20 universities that are from America.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few in Singapore, and then there's about 4 or 5 in England. So I aimed my sights at
Scotland.
And Scotland. There is Edinburgh, which is ranked 24th in the world, I believe.
St Andrews, is that in there?
It might be in there. It's not as high as Edinburgh though.
Okay.
So then I looked at sort of rankings, and I went for sort of the Russell group again, which is Manchester, Edinburgh,
Is that like
Sheffield.
the Ivy League of
It's
the UK?
similar.
It is.
It's similar to the Ivy League in the UK, yeah. And then I went and looked at the courses, the actual course description, and I basically looked at the one that I thought was the most interesting, which for my criteria was the most important thing, because they all cost around the same. So it's going to cost me, location-wise, is not too bad. I'd rather live in the north, but it's not essential. And then I just looked at the one that grabbed my attention.
You'd rather live in the north. That's what we were both laughing about. Both of us started like, I was like, yeah, I'd rather live in the north. So would you say, what was your number one factor that you take into account? So I've said money because it's a limiting factor, because without the money you can't do it. So that's why it was my number one factor. What's your number one factor in making the next step in your life?
Ranking and prestige of the university, because I'm using my masters as a platform to try and obtain a PhD, and if I can get a masters from a school that's very highly ranked and well known, it'll give me a better opportunity to then reach out to potentially the same university or other universities that are also highly ranked.
That was my number two factor I was going to come on to, is that the prestige and the opportunity after graduation is massive, especially because I'm hoping to stay in America getting a work visa and basically being set up by the time I graduate is going to be so important. And that is what really influenced my decision on where I applied to. And also then you you mentioned location. I think location also plays into opportunities and things like that. So I tried to apply to major metropolitan areas mainly. I have a few that aren't that I applied to, but I really want to end up in a big city or somewhere where I feel like there's going to be opportunity outside the university.
And that's a good point, especially with a major metropolitan area. It's not really an issue in the UK because all of the universities are in big cities, and obviously the UK is a lot smaller anyway. But in somewhere as vast as America, there are schools that quite literally are in the middle of nowhere. But if you choose one that is in a extremely busy, populous city that's got a lot of things going on, there's obviously so many more opportunities, and they have likely to have better links with local companies and internships, etc.
More competition though, and different living environment. I would say there are other things you have to weigh up because myself, I haven't lived in a big city in my life, and to move to a big city is probably going to be a big difference. So that was something I had to weigh up.
And more expensive.
More expensive, yeah. To weigh up whether it would suit me or not. I mean, I'm willing to take the risk and go for it, but people have to weigh up that as well.
So I like that.
Yeah.
What about yourself? I know you've been looking to extend your education further. Let's hear about your credentials for that.
Yeah, what are your factors you take into account?
I guess I've not put in as much as I probably should have into terms of making my decision because because I didn't know that I was going to have to go to grad school until
late in the process.
Late in the process. Okay, so I thought I was going to be able to work for longer than I am allowed to on my visa. Okay, so then when it came to my realization that it's actually going to be cut short a year sooner than I expected, I had to turn around and quickly get my act together and figure out where I'm going to go for an education. And now I was prepared. I was doing a master's in furthering my education was always in the cards, but it was just it was basically a year further out than it's actually turned out to be. Okay, so I had essentially 5 weeks to study for the standardized test that's required for graduate management admissions, the GMAT, and it's quite intense. So I based some of my decisions based on my GMAT score and the average or median scores of the people in the last 3 years that attended that's available on the site. So although I did want to aim as high as I can, I had to limit my factors because my scores probably wasn't reflective of what it would have been if I'd been prepared for the 6 months that they suggest. So I based my decisions on that I knew there was someone I knew from the University of Miami who had been down there and recommended it and said that they're having a brilliant experience and it's got a good education. So, and there's no application fee, so that actually played into it because there's nothing to lose.
Yeah,
I applied there. I applied at schools local to here, so that part of the decision going into that is that it wouldn't uproot my life or completely have to change anything, and I could go and pursue an education that would allow me to continue to sort of work and build on what I've already built on and put in place.
Yeah.
So with being working for a year already, you guys are in the school I've been working up until now since I graduated, is that I've begun to build a business. So with moving away, that I would just have to leave that or it would quite require. So I did apply at the two bigger local universities in Pittsburgh. And one of those was for a full tuition right GA position, which came through. Yeah. So that's one option, and then my other ones are further afield. And so some of the ones that I decided to aim for were kind of long shots, really. And you look at your standardized test scores and compare that to maybe some of the people that did apply. And there's a great resource actually, especially for people going for an MBA. It's called GMAT Club, and essentially people that apply from the top 50 schools, I think it is, they actually track their status. So if they're researching and writing the essays, they'll have it on there and update their status. And then if they get invited to interview, they'll do it, application submitted and track. So you can, and then it'll have their standardized scores and their GPA and their industry.
I had a similar thing for law school as well.
Yeah, and that was really helpful because I could see just by looking at the school whether or not I might have a shot at going in, because if they accepted people with a similar range to me or maybe a GPA, I could do that.
Yeah.
And so I threw a couple of long shots in there, and they've turned out it's been proceeding so far with Skype interviews and then waiting for decisions now. So I'm in the process of waiting for decisions that are a lot further away, even in another country. So I've also applied in Canada and at Toronto as well. So it's gonna be big decision time coming up, and that's why I was almost selfish with this topic that I chose, because I want to see what your criteria were.
Well, yeah, in our Hot Topic Trio group chat, it's been the last couple of weeks has been interviews.
Yeah.
Oh, how are you making this decision? How are you making that decision? We've been talking about it between ourselves, just
a lot,
talking about life and how we're doing very well between us all. We're all very driven characters, but making the decisions is now going to be the big thing. And how are we going to go about that?
100%.
And so I've got three paths in front of me, maybe 4 or 5, whatever it is, right? The paths are either the sort of, like you said, it's the known or the unknown.
Yeah.
If it's a known path, then it would be staying local and continuing to build on what I've got build on and furthering an education, right? Or then do I go further afield, potentially hours away from where I'm currently based now, new people, new experiences, no friends.
Yeah.
And then there comes into the cost of sort of funding it, self-funding.
That can be exciting. Like,
yeah,
I mean, obviously,
sure.
it's like, look at us, we're all here, but
the element of the unknown is always
but
enticing sometimes.
It is
isn't
enticing, and it's,
yeah. Do I want to play it safe or do I want to take a risk?
How risky is the risk? That's what I always think as well.
How risky
is it? A risk? Is it a risk?
It's a risk, but maybe not for like life change. Well, it is life changing factors, but then I'm thinking relationships, like particularly.
Because I feel we have a basis that almost we're not going to drop below. We're about to graduate. We're going to have degrees. We have a great family at home that we can always
It's
go
going
back
to turn
to.
out good, whatever. But
It's
it's
not
just
a- it's-
one will.
It's maximising your opportunities. Isn't it? And
exactly
we have
what it
such a great we're so lucky, all three of us, that we have such a great foundation that taking these risks isn't a risk in real terms, almost. You know what I mean? We're so lucky.
People dying.
It's not like throwing the last bit of your money in something and hoping that it pays off.
So
Red or
what
black.
we're doing is, like I said, maximising our opportunities and thinking, is moving away gonna give me the best life possible, basically?
And obviously you want the best life and also but the best balance, and you don't want to burn any bridges on the way and different things like that. I don't know. It's tough. And there's a lot to take into consideration, but at the same time, it is exciting beyond the precipice of potentially having to make that decision. Now, I haven't had any responses back yet, so it's just a waiting game now. Maybe I won't even have to make a decision. I may not have to. I may just be left with one, not even choice, but one option.
Yeah.
So it's interesting and exciting, but just quickly, I do actually have a question for you, Curt, on a decision that you've made.
Yeah, go on.
And that is getting a tattoo.
Do you want to show the camera?
Well, I mean, you can see it.
So, like your first tattoo particularly, what led to that decision? I mean, did you always want one? Was that because I imagine Fraser would have a different way of going into it.
Because you two neither don't have any clean canvas.
Yeah.
I am a fan of tattoos, to be honest.
Right.
I actually like them. I wouldn't even say it as a form of expression. I don't think mine express too much. I just really enjoy the artwork first of all. So
absolutely.
like, I'm a fan of tattoos. For me, they can mean something. I think that's really good when someone devotes like a part of the body to maybe a family member or someone else. I think that's really interesting. But even if someone said, I really enjoy tattoos, this is why I got this one because I like the image, I like the pattern, whatever, that's completely fine with me as well. As far as when I got one, I had always wanted one, and it was actually for my 18th birthday that my parents got me a tattoo session.
Okay.
So like I went and got it was only a little
What was
tattoo.
the first part of your tattoo?
It was on his.
It's on my stomach.
Oh, your stomach.
Do you want to
Yeah.
show the camera?
I can do. Some Roman numerals there.
Wow, the
Some
YouTube viewers just got a treat.
some Roman numerals on my stomach, which signify my birthday. Which I made a joke about that if I lose my ID, I can always say this is when I was born, mate. No, but honestly, I enjoy tattoos. I got that one first. My parents were obviously okay with it because I think if they weren't as open about it, I would have had, or I'd have just got it later.
You'd have reservations.
Yeah, I'd have still got it, to be honest, but I would have got it later on.
And then what about a more conscious decision to get one that's visible?
To get my arm.
To get it visible, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people do comment on that, especially me being in science. They're like,
Right.
"Oh, what about your jobs?"
It's non-traditional.
Yeah, it's non-traditional. Although I think it's a lot more popular now.
Yeah.
To see people working with visible tattoos.
Yeah, it's not
There's
a
like
big deal.
sort of the stigma of it is like, oh, if you've got a tattoo, you're maybe not a best worker. You're like a bad person or something. You know, like
That is
sort
fading
of,
a bit,
that sort of
honestly.
thing. I don't think that's sort of.
Although Fraser wouldn't be up for his like scholarships if he had neck tattoos.
Yeah,
Let's just put it
exactly.
that
Well,
way.
see,
It
like-
depends where you are.
See, if I've gone for an interview ever, I can wear a long sleeve shirt,
Yeah.
and you would not know that I had a single tattoo on my body. And I would like in science, you wear a lab coat,
Yeah.
and they have to cover
Well, it's not like the chemicals care.
exactly.
What you look
They
like.
have to cover up to your arm, and then you wear gloves anyway because you have to cover every ounce of visible skin. So like I'm going to be wearing a lab coat anyway. So as far as professionally, I don't think it would hinder me in any sort like shape or form, really.
Yeah, so it's a minimal risk decision. Almost.
It was a minimal risk.
Honestly, I think
I-
it differentiates you.
Exactly.
Shows you a bit of personality.
I weighed up, and if like I don't know if you can see, but I have a line across that like sort of cuts my tattoo. My watch actually would cover that line, so that even if my sleeve came up a bit and you see a watch, there's still quite a way to go to actually see any visible tattoos.
Yeah.
And I've made sure of that. I would never get one that ran up on my neck too high. I would never get one past that on my wrist. And so I just think as long as you can cover them, and if you do enjoy them, that's fine.
Yeah. Have you either of you ever made any bad decisions that you regret? Do you have any bad decisions that you maybe don't regret that you learn from?
I'm sure I've done silly things at silly times, but it's never. If it's been a big decision, which is like the topic of this conversation, a big decision, I'd always look for advice first of all from my parents and maybe close friends or some people I trust, and given myself the time and the research, I think that I've always done. I've never made a big decision in my life that I've regretted.
Okay, and I think, do you know, I would say why is most of the bad decisions that we make in life are emotional, impulsive decisions.
Yeah.
If you have time to think about it, if you had time to think about if anyone's ever made a mistake, really, like in the heat of the moment, everyone says, "Oh, you see red." That's when you're emotionally driven rather than
Definitely.
consciously driven and thinking about your decisions. So, yeah, I mean, have you ever made an impulsive decision or a mistake?
I regret going to my first university.
Okay.
I think on my part that was a bad decision in terms of like soccer or football.
Really?
Why?
Yeah.
So why? How have you made that decision then? When you had the information available to you,
Yeah.
and you made the decision based on that information. So how can you regret your decision when at the time you wouldn't have ever chosen anything different? Do you know what I mean?
So I based my decision on talking with the assistant head coach in person twice. Like he saw me play, he loved me, like very good. And then I talked to the coach over email, just like really nice. And then when I got there and I saw him actually coach and run a team, for me it didn't agree with sort of what I've grown up with and what I've culture been brought up with in terms of like the football, the tactics and stuff. And the way he ran his team, I personally didn't agree with. And so I didn't get played much in my freshman year here. And honestly, there were probably some weeks where I didn't practice as good as I could have done, so I didn't deserve to play. But I think there were some weeks where I definitely deserved game time. And this coach like played the exact same substitutes at the exact same minute. Whoever, even if it was a different team, no matter the scoreline, no matter what. And for me, it just got to the point where I give up. Like, there's nothing I could do. I could train badly and still not get played. I could train amazing and still not get played. It kind of,
You're disheartened.
I lost a lot of confidence in myself, and then following this, like, probably one of the worst decisions I made. Not moving to America, that was the best decision I've ever made. But moving from that school to this one that I'm at now was 100% the best decision I've ever made.
So,
By a long
do
shot.
you actually regret that decision to go to Marshall?
No, because it led me to this.
But it was a bad
But
decision.
on my part,
okay.
upon reflection, it probably wasn't my best decision. Even though sometimes you have the facts and it doesn't pan out as well as you thought.
That's similar to me,
Yeah.
because so for my A-levels I did like biology and physics and sciences because I thought that's what I liked, and at the time like I said, I had the information in front of me, I've done well at sciences, I'll do sciences, and I found out that I hated it.
Yeah.
And I got through it, but then it led me to humanities, and now I'm political science and history, and I enjoy writing about current events and everything about that, and I enjoy writing essays. And I think that almost bad decision, I'm putting quotation marks for the led to help me in life, and although it was a bad decision, I don't regret that decision. So it's two different ways of looking at it.
I think it's hard to go through a life with making just right decisions, to be honest.
You'd have no spice, no flavour either.
A bit boring.
It would be boring. Excellent.
Yeah,
Thanks for your input, guys. You have helped me a lot as well with having to make my decision coming up. But anyway, remember, you can suggest the next hot topic by reaching out to us on Twitter using the hashtag AskSmithy or hot topic at The Smithy Show. You can connect with us on Facebook, and we're also now on YouTube. Our channel is also called The Smithy Show, and you can find video footage of this exact podcast you're listening to right now, as well as seeing Curtis's tattoos on there too. So thank you for listening. If you want to subscribe, then please do so. And also, if you enjoyed it, share it with a friend. We'd appreciate it. This has been The Smithy Show with Curtis Gallagher.
See you in a bit, fans.
And Fraser Goodlad.
See you in a bit, fans.
And myself, Joseph Smith. See you in a bit, fans.
When the pimp's in the crib, ma, drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot.